once you get going in a business and people see that you start becoming successful, so many people want to partner with you, okay? And they see your passion for what you're doing, and they're like, oh my gosh, we can do something together. What I've learned is no one is going to promote your business or your product like you. No matter how much you pay them or hire a publicist or whatever, it's all about you, because your passion cannot be replicated very easily. So when anyone ever, I learned my lesson the hard way, when anyone ever comes to me and says, oh my gosh, Maria, we got to be a partner because you can do this and I can do this, I always give them the first task to do. Because then I see how much they're really relying on me and my passion and my business and how much they're willing to put into the partnership. And when you create an action item and you say, okay, that's great. Next Friday, you come back to me with a list of how we're going to do this, and I'll get right on it. Do you know how many people come back to me with that list of how this partnership's going to work? Very, very, very few, okay? Moms and women have the worst habit of this. We don't ask for enough. We underprice. We fall in love with our business and our product, and we never ask for enough money. I don't know what it is. I think it's the woman thing that, we just don't feel we're worthy, or I don't know. That's an Oprah show. But I do know this, is that when you don't ask for the money, and if you are uncomfortable asking for the money, let someone else on your team do it. And I'll give you an example. Someone came to me one time and they asked me to speak, and it was between me and this other woman. And they asked me the price, and I was like, oh, because I love what I do, I'm like, oh, just pay for my ticket there and whatever. And I gave them a small fee. Well, they came back to me and they said, you know what, Maria? We really wanted you at this conference, and it was a big company. But the other lady asked for $15,000, so we just thought you somehow weren't, up to par with what she could offer, okay? Now, she did the exact same speech she had done for the last year for that $15,000, and I would have given them much more, but I realized at that point I was uncomfortable asking for money because I love what I do too much. So I literally now have someone on my staff that I say, you know what, Laura will get back to you with my fee requirement and my availability. And she has no problem, because she does the bookkeeping and invoicing, asking for money. So I give that to someone else. They're holding up my cards, but I want to give you two other things. Number one, I always say and ask myself in a situation of business, what would a man do? Before you make your decision, ask yourself, what would a man do? Two guys in business can have a knockdown, drag-out fight in a corporate office, and an hour later, they're on the golf course going, hey, dude, you want a beer on the 19th hole? We're not like that. Women, we internalize it, we think about it, we contemplate, oh my gosh, let me read that email 5 times. I mean, last week I did the worst thing I've ever done in my career, and I basically sent an email to someone with the F word in it. And my business partner in one of my companies is a guy in finance, and he's like, oh my gosh, Maria, that was the most unprofessional thing you ever did. I'm like, oh, give me a break. You are a man, and you have heard much worse than what I just said. So, don't use the F word in emails, but just ask yourself, what would a guy do? So many moms call me and they'll say, Maria, I'm going on maternity leave and I'm afraid of going to tell my boss I'm pregnant. And the first thing I say is, a guy looks at the bottom line and he says, how much money is that person worth? So you don't go in and say, oh, I'm so sorry, I'm willing to work from home, I'm sorry, I'm going to be on maternity leave. No, you go in and you say, you know what, last year I upped sales by 5% in this company, and I'm worth $2.5 million to your bottom line, and I intend to keep doing that, and here's the situation, and here's how I'm going to obtain that, okay? So you think about it through a man's eyes, and you tend to get a different perspective. And then finally, as a mom, and I can say this because I had 3 kids in less than 2 years, in less than 20 months, to be honest with you, and I had 4 in less than 4 when I worked for the fastest growing company in America. And now that they're older, it's much harder to be on the road like I am and to be running the businesses that I am. But my best advice to you now that I have teenagers is when you are home, and you may be running your business from home, but when you are with your children, be present. That means if you're on your computer and they come up to you and they say, "Oh, Mommy, look. You literally, this is the habit that I've gotten myself into, you look at the whites of their eyes because they'll know that you're not present when you're just like looking at your BlackBerry and answering the question. But I look at the whites of their eye and I know in my heart that I'm present. So I would just encourage you, because that's the hardest thing, is you get in that gray area where you're trying to answer phone calls and you think it's the most important thing in that conference call that you're on, but be present. So as you start today, I wanted to throw out my favorite saying so that I can introduce our keynotes. And my favorite saying is, if you always do what you've always done, you're always going to get what you've always gotten, okay? So as you go through today, I really encourage you to be open to looking outside of your current business plan, learn and listen from the people around you, ask questions, and most importantly, ask yourself, what if?